Welcome to another episode of Checking In, a Lodging DEI chat. I'm Leon Thomas here with Miranda Kitterlin Lynch. Miranda, how's it going?
It's going great. How are you?
All is groovy. Great things are happening. Good things are happening. I've been to like four graduations this graduation season. That's a good thing, right? When you get invited to go to graduations,
I
that's
think
that's a
so,
good
unless they
thing.
just sent you the invitation to get a gift.
Well, that did happen. They actually, yeah. So I'm feeling pretty good about it, and none of the folks that are graduating, these are all not family members, right? These are friends and so forth that have invited me to come, or children of friends. So that's a pretty good thing, right?
That's pretty awesome. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So I've been doing that in the graduation scene. So that's been pretty cool. Been reading a lot about hotels and stuff. What's up with this choice buying Wyndham? It's
I was just looking at that. So you tell me.
Wow. They say that they both sides will not confirm that
Yeah.
this is going on, but I don't know. What's the win for the consumer in that one? I'm thinking, where's the win there?
It makes me think of the airline industry, and how when one buys another, it just lessens the. But I have to fly a lot, so let me stop talking about airlines.
Okay,
I
okay,
don't want
yeah,
them to flag me.
yeah. And I only fly one. That's the one with the heart thing that they do. That's the only one that I
Gotcha.
fly on. So we're here at episode number.
23?
Sounds good. We'll roll with it.
We
We'll
don't have
roll with
Aaron
it.
here to help us.
Yes, that's right. No one's here. We don't know. We could go back and start looking through them. I don't know. Wait, but you guys just what? You just saw this text message? No, never mind. I'll hide this down. Yeah. So let's go with number 23. And today we have a long term. A friend of mine, John Delozier, who's been a friend and I actually worked with John, worked for John in several capacities. Looking forward to having John Delozier as our guest today here on Checking In a Lodging DEI chat. Let's bring John into the studio. Hey, John, how are you?
Good morning, Leon. How are you? Hi, Miranda. Good to be here
Hello.
with you. Good to see
Great
you
to have
both.
you.
Good to see you. So, John, you have like a very unique, done it all kind of a background. What haven't you done?
I hadn't ever done anything in healthcare, so just recently I decided I would start dabbling in the healthcare field a little bit. So right now I'm working with a grant from the Department of Labor that helps uh, take people that are underemployed or unemployed and do apprenticeships in the healthcare industry. So that's something I haven't done yet, Leah, but I'm now working on that as well. Typically, healthcare professions weren't necessarily thought of as far as apprentices are concerned. We're pretty used to that in hospitality and in culinary arts, but it's a new thing for the healthcare industry. So I'm working on that now, Leon. Uh, but yeah, I'm always looking for something new to dabble in.
Yeah, yeah, right on. So here's what I want to do, John. I'll pick up with where you and I met, and don't tell any bad things about me.
Tell
I
all of
don't.
them.
There are no bad things to tell, Leon.
Do not listen to Miranda. Miranda just said tell all of them. Do not.
And
Please,
then we'll
please
put it on
don't.
the internet forever.
Because when you start going down that path, this will happen. And we don't want to do that. Okay. And then you kind of tell us what you're doing now. Then I'll turn it over to Miranda, and we'll start getting into some things about DEI in the lodging industry. So, John, you and I met. I don't know what year it was, but it was a while ago. When I was a trainer for your hotels, you were a vice president or a regional vice president for a hotel management company that had several hotels in the Mid Atlantic states, and I was your trainer. And then um,
Probably
you take it from there from what you were
2000,
doing.
2004, 2005. Leon, I actually had attended a conference. I think it was in Aruba, and I had met a gentleman from your organization, and thought, wow, this type of training would really help my hotels. I was overseeing 3 hotels at that point, and uh, each of these hotels were struggling just with some really basics, how to answer, back in those days, how to answer the telephones and how to take reservations. And the training that your company offered specifically taught our employees how to answer the phone and how to take a reservation, so like you would find in a professional call center. And I've always thought that hiring that company and then having you as our trainer, Leon, was one of the things that was really good for my career. It was really good for our company. It was the type of training that instantly made an impact. When our vice president left the company, just maybe a year after you and I met, I stepped into her position, and then we added a number of hotels throughout the year. Just prior in 2016, my former partner, or my former boss, asked me if I would come back into the industry. I'd spent a little bit of time in higher education, and he said, "Would you come back?" He says, "If you do, I'll make you a partner in the business." So I decided to step back into hospitality, became part owner of one of the hotels, and became a part owner of a hotel management company as well. We just have 2 properties right now, so it's a nice, easy to manage portfolio, and it also gives me time to, as I said previously, dabble in some other things, whether it's my adjunct teaching that I'm doing, or working on some projects for the local community college. It gives me a chance to branch out and keep myself involved in a few different areas.
Hmm. Hmm. Miranda?
Very cool. So before we started, Leon and I were chatting, and he brought up the topic of neurodiversity. And I don't think that that's something that we've really touched on our show thus far. We've talked a lot about diversity in terms of race, ethnicity, gender. But neurodiversity is something that I don't think receives as much attention. And Leon mentioned that you recently attended a conference on this.
I recently attended it was a afternoon professional development workshop, and one of the things I shared with Leon was um, I was working on just getting some professional development credits. It's time for me to send in my certified hotel administrator paperwork, right? And so I was making sure I have all of my professional development credits. And I decided I would look at the diversity track, because it's always important to me with diversity. As much as we want to do diversity, equity, inclusion, we want to do it, and we want to do it right. To me, the most important thing has always been learning more and learning as much as I possibly can about it, right? Again, I may not always do it right, but I want to learn everything I can about it. And I saw the topic neurodiversity, and I'll be the first one to admit, I went on Google right away and said, "What is neurodiversity?" It wasn't a term that I had come across before. And then I saw that specifically this workshop was going to deal with the topics of working with folks who identify with autism, and then working with people also who have been diagnosed with ADHD. And I'll share it here. I have shared this publicly, but as an adult, I was diagnosed with ADHD. So that topic of the neuro diversity was of special interest to me. I always thought that my ADHD was actually one of my strengths and not necessarily a weakness. I'm sure that my childhood teachers and my high school teachers probably had different thoughts on whether or not that was one of my strengths. So yeah, I did recently attend that, just because I want to keep knowledgeable on what's going on, and when I see a term like that, I want to know what it means.
Absolutely. Will you share with our audience and with Leon and I, what were some of your big takeaways from that session?
I think one of my takeaways, and like some people, I might grow a little weary of like the vocabulary police, right? But I think one of my big takeaways was just being sensitive to the language that's out there, and again, um, learning uh, how we talk about autism, how we talk about ADHD. There were a number of other disabilities that were discussed. Some of them that, again, I'd have to go back and look at my notes because I wasn't familiar with what some of these were. One of the things that I heard yesterday was about the origins of the word Asperger's, and for a long time, I've heard people referred to as having Asperger's, and I believe there's even like Asperger's Foundation. But what I learned yesterday is that word Asperger's itself came from a Nazi physician that was actually doing experimentation. So people with that particular diagnosis aren't necessarily fond of that term, and then some identify with that term and have no issue with it. So I think one of my big takeaways, and never seems like there's anything new, it's just being really sensitive to the language and how people prefer to be identify and to discuss these type of topics. I think my other big takeaway is you're often hearing people refer, as far as autism is concerned, as the comment might be they're on the spectrum, or they're high functioning, or they're low functioning, and really that's not the preferred method of referring to autism either. So I think, and I'd have to review my notes. I'd want to read up on it a little bit more, but the takeaway coming is that I'm here with today is just pay attention and keep learning about these things. And as an employer, so most of my conversation yesterday was as an educator, but as an employer, we probably aren't spending a whole lot of time talking about neurodiversity. Like I said, I had to Google the topic so I knew what I was signing up for.
Mhm. I'm Leon Thomas with Miranda Kidden Lynch, and our guest today here on Checking In is John Delozier with Practice Hospitality. John, as we continue our conversation, one of the things that I want to comment on and then get your feedback on is before we really got to know each other, and I was training at some of your hotels. Your staff, your team members were proud of several members of the teams in two of your hotels that you employed folks that had developmental disabilities. Tell us some about that experience and why that was important for you to do that. And I think it's appropriate for this show on diversity, equity, and inclusion because so often we think about race, gender, and identity when we hear the term DEI, and those that aren't fully aware of what it is, it's more than that. So, can you share some feedback about how it was to work with those that have developmental disabilities and some of the wins that took place in that, please?
At the time, Leon, I was regional vice president. We had a country and suites in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, and we had a country and suites in York, Pennsylvania, my hometown. And there was a local uh, intermediate school that had a program where they would bring some of the students with developmental disabilities to the hotel, and they were just teaching them skills. Typically these were house people in the industry, people that took care of our public areas, the meeting rooms, the pool space, the hallways, and it was life tasks like vacuuming and dusting. And at, at, at one particular property, our country and suites in Gettysburg, the general manager was really successful with that program. The students that would came in formed a bond with him. The supervisors from the program that came in formed a bond with him, and from a hotel labor standpoint, he didn't need to have anybody there at the hotel Monday through Friday cleaning these public areas, because the students who were part of this program were doing that. They were learning some valuable life skills, and he was benefiting from having these individuals there to uh, do some of these jobs that needed to be done. It was a win for both parties, and that was back prior to the pandemic. That was back when finding labor wasn't as much of an issue as it is right now.
Mhm.
I'm sorry. In what year did you say that was?
That was probably around 2012, 2013. It was definitely pre-pandemic. After my company sold that particular hotel, the general manager at that hotel, he remained with the new company. He continued that program for years and years. I remember he even received some awards within the county for just how invested he became in that particular program.
That's fantastic. I love that. And now I want to talk to you as an educator. Um, do you, first off, what classes do you teach or what classes do you enjoy teaching?
My favorite class, especially when I was full time, my favorite class to teach is Introduction to Hospitality Management. I love having the students right there, their very first class, getting them started, kind of setting the tone for what they're going to think for the rest of their career, what they're going to think hospitality management is. I love being the one that influences that mindset. Right now, I'm teaching my primary class. I teach as an adjunct instructor is hotel operations, and I really enjoy that class as well. I always love teaching hotel marketing classes as well, and then I teach an introduction to business class as well as an adjunct. So I like the introductory courses. I know a lot of my instructors used to groan if they were having to do all the introductory courses, right? But I like teaching those. I always felt like it was my chance to get the students started on the right foot.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially introduction to hospitality, because there's so many people. Leon and I were just talking the other day. There's so many people that don't know how vast our industry is and how many different facets there are and how many opportunities. So, yeah.
I must have like 5 or 6 students over the last few years that have reached out to me, and they'll say, "I was in your hospitality management class. I was taking it as a business elective. And because of that class, I decided to change my major, or I decided to go into the hospitality management instead." I had some culinary arts students that would say that to me. I originally wanted to be a chef, but you made me decide to go into. So that's always been very rewarding, I've heard the same thing said of some of my peers as well. They teach that intro class, and they have a good experience with the student, and before you know it, that student's saying, "I'm not a business major anymore. I'm a hospitality major."
That's funny that you say that. Sorry, Leon. I just want to share that uh, when I went to school, I was a pre-med major, so that was my path, and I took an intro to hospitality class as an elective because I had a boyfriend at the time that wanted me to help him study, and that's what made me change my major. And it's been literally 10 years in college learning about hospitality management.
So now it's coming together. I remember on another episode you said that someone in your family, maybe it was your
My
mom, that you
mother.
said wanted you to be a doctor, and you're like, I am, but you just took a different path. But I never went into what all that was about. Now I got it.
She said, "You're going to be a doctor." And I finally, decades later, I'm a
No,
doctor.
no. Let's go a little deeper here. What specialty were you interested in?
I actually originally wanted to be a genetic engineer. And then I thought, you know what? I want to be a surgeon. And then I realized that I will pass out at the sight of blood. So that wasn't going to work for me.
That wouldn't be good. That wouldn't be good. So, wow, how about them apples? Who knew? Who knew? So we have a doctor that's a doctor. A John, what did you want to be when you grew up? Where were you? Where were your thoughts?
So my freshman year in college, I was studying for the ministry. I was planning on going into a role as a full-time pastor and pastoring churches. That was my original intent as well. And when I first joined the hotel industry, I was actually working full time for my church and had taken a part-time job working at a front desk at a hotel.
Okay. All
Wow.
right.
Big
And
difference.
yeah, and I think both of you know that I'm really supposed to be the basketball coach at UCLA right now,
Yep.
right? That we're not supposed to be here right now. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So John, you've done a lot. Let's tell me in the hotel business, um, what is something that's memorable to you where it's like one of those stories where it's like, I can't believe that happened and it did, and you were there to witness it, hear about it. Like I'll give you one for me. I was working the front desk at a hotel at the Baltimore airport, and this guy in a white suit is checking out. Right? He's checking out of the hotel, and suddenly a pipe burst, and right away he's covered with stuff. Right? He's covered with stuff.
Ew.
Yeah, it was like one of those ooh moments, right? It was really bad, and he goes, "Oh well, I got to figure out something." And it's like 8 in the morning. He goes, "Do you know where I can get a white suit at 8 in the morning?" Right? You know where I can get a white suit at 8 in the morning? So we actually figured out how to get him some clothing, and the guy was a magician, and he was going to perform, right, at a company, doing like a company outing. So we got him taken care of. All right. 10, 15 years later, I see this guy, not in a hotel. And he comes up to me and goes, "You don't remember me, do you?" I'm like, "Nope, I have no clue who you are." He goes, "White suit, checking out, Hampton Inn." Like, "I don't know." And he goes, "Think about it." I'm like, "Yes, I know you." So, what do you got for us, John?
Well, I don't. The first thing that comes to my mind might not be my best story. So I've often said I should like collect all these things and put them in a book, right? But I think my best story like that was one time. One time I had a phone call from my hotel saying we just had a deer uh, crash through the pool window. He took a swim in the pool and then crashed through the window on the other side. And I was like, "Oh no, is everybody all right? What are we doing about taking care of the pool? All these types of things." And, okay, we're sanitizing the area. We're going to call the glass company to come in and fix the two windows, not one window, two windows. And all right, okay. And I thought that issue was solved. And then about 2 hours later, I get a phone call from the local media, and the reporter who I knew from like watching the 6 o'clock news calls me, and he wants to meet me at the hotel like in an hour. And I lived about an hour away from this hotel. And he said he wants to interview me about this deer jumping through the window. So the just the natural VP in me is like, who in the world notified the media like how about this pool jumping through or this deer jumping through our window? So sure enough, the employees that were responsible for involving the media they were really proud that we were getting this story done on us about the deer jumping through the window. So
Wow.
that would go in my book. The only other, I want to tell one more though. One time, one of my hotels caught on fire, and it was a pretty serious matter. And my general manager's mother was the one that notified him because his mother was watching it on the Channel 13 Baltimore News. That general manager was playing hooky that day or at a meeting or something. And thank goodness his mother was watching the news and let him know that his hotel was on fire. That's the other one that'll make it in my
That's the other one that'll make the news. Miranda, okay, all right.
I'm
We'll
guessing
go.
you were the general
I
manager.
was the general manager of the hotel. I was transitioning out of my position there and going into the French fry business. And I was closing a deal actually, and I had my phone off. And the team members, my management team, kept calling me, right? And I see the number, their cell numbers pop up. I'm like, ignore, 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 right? And I get in the car and I'm just ready to blast them for calling me. I had my three top managers. If you guys can't run the place, I don't need to be there, right? I don't need you if you can't run the place. And so then my mom calls me and she says, "Where are you at?" Said, "I'm leaving downtown, heading to the hotel." "Why?" She says, "Your hotel's on fire." I said, "No, it's not. They would have called me." Uh-oh, they did try to
Oh
call me.
no.
And she says, "It's on channel 13. It's on fire." Says, "Well, hold on a minute. Let me go to channel 2." "Yep, it's on fire on channel 2 also. Yep, it's on fire. Yep,
Oh
they got a
my god.
helicopter view and all." And as I'm getting closer to the hotel, there's black smoke, right? There's helicopters floating around. And yeah, thanks to mom. Yeah, that's how I really found.
Oh my gosh. Out of curiosity, what caused the fire?
defective air conditioner.
Oh
It's a
wow.
yeah, defective air conditioner unit on the roof. On the roof.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Insurance
Yep.
paid for everything, and the manufacturer had to pay as well because it was a defective unit. So
Yeah.
Wow. So it wasn't a disgruntled employee that was
it
just like
it was not, no.
Yep. That was
it wasn't
something.
Leon setting the place ablaze before he
It
went to his
wasn't.
next
No,
gig.
and they were very loyal to Leon. They didn't call the VP when the hotel was on fire. They waited for Leon to call me.
Nice.
That's right. Call John for nothing. Call me. Right. So John, now I worked for you, minority manager, back before DEI was a popular thing, right? Before everybody started talking about it, obviously before it was on anyone's radar. And I worked for you, worked with you, and had great experiences with you there. I can't think of any race related situation that I can look back on and say, "John, you didn't handle that right," or "Did you not understand this?" or "Hey, let me sit you down and educate you on." How is it that then you were so in tune with how things needed to be run that I could feel comfortable, but now our industry seems to want to talk about it, and in so many areas we still seem to miss the mark, but not only in our industry but in so many others. What what do we need to do? But what did you do? What was part of you that helped you be way ahead of the curve? It wasn't me. You had other minorities in supervisory and management positions also. So tell us some about that, your experience. But what do we need to do now?
Well, and I, I think I kind of have to preface my statements that, um, you know, some people might not exactly like the way I phrase some things here, Leon. But let me start with this. So I kind of cut my teeth in like the management world in the 90s. I was working for a pretty large company. It was a retailer that's no longer in business, and they had an excellent training program that I was part of. And so I remember like when the diversity discussions like first started there in the 90s. I remember going to meetings with HR where they would bring in the managers from the stores all over. We were in the Baltimore district, and I was in Pennsylvania. They'd bring in managers from all of our stores, and people really rejected being in that training. Most of that diversity was like the traditional diversity topics, race and sexuality, and those those discussions were very different back then than they were now. But the one thing always struck me was like the good business sense that came from running a diverse operation. It just makes good sense from a business standpoint. I was raised in a home. I was raised in a home that was free of prejudice. My dad was military. My dad was very used to interacting and living with people from all walks of life. He instilled that in my brother and I. Probably our concept back then was like eh, to be colorblind, and we know that language has all changed some as well. But that was kind of you know how we were raised. There just wasn't. My home was free of prejudice, and I also would see, particularly my mom and dad, both some anti-racism as well, because their homes weren't necessarily free of that type of prejudice and racism that they had grown up in. And so, in both my parents, I saw this anti-racism as example as well. So, here I am, a young, 20 something in this major company where they're introducing diversity, and it just makes good business sense, and it was very consistent with the values that I grew up with. And so, Leon, I think I was just thinking as I was reflecting upon our history. I think you were probably like the second minority general manager that we had. The second African American manager that we had for sure. And and when we opened that hotel at BWI, our labor pool was a little bit more expanded than what it was in some of our more rural, predominantly white areas where we had been previously. Um, and so I just had this belief that our organization should look like the people we're serving, right? And the people that we're working with. So and to me that seems so common sense. And I realize it's not for people, but for me it was just always common sense way of doing business. I what One of my mentors one time said, again, this guy Lee, and you actually know him, but like his thing was, we got to remember everybody's money is green, right? That was his reason for being diverse. From a business standpoint, and uh, you weren't our first black GM, Leon, but you were in a line of very successful black GMs, and it was good for our organization. It was good for the employees. It was good for our guests, and why not?
I love that you said that it just makes good business sense, because I say it all the time. Even if you don't care about diversity, if it is not a value to you, you probably care about money, right? So I just love that you reiterated that. Um, it's interesting to me that you say that Leon was the second Black GM that you had at your property, because many times when we talk to people, they've only encountered one, if not zero, Black general managers. How many general managers of color would you say that you've interacted with?
Well, I'll give an example. I was at a conference, major hotel brand conference last year, and I walked into a room, and there were like three African American men standing in the front of the room. And the first thing that went through my mind is, oh wait, I think I'm in the wrong meeting. These don't look like um I'm not going to name the brand. These don't look like this a brand A's executive staff, right? And I was in the wrong room, right? And then like walking out of that room, I'm thinking, why did they look like staff of this brand? Well, there were three African American men at the at the front of the room. So you and African American females, I've never hired an African American female GM, nor have I had a lot of interaction with African American females in my company. And maybe some of that might be because of where the hotels are based, and the applicants that we get. We um, I remember there was another there we had another African American general manager at one of our hotels in State College, Pennsylvania. We're just a few miles away from Penn State University, and we had a female general manager at the time. I wasn't satisfied with her performance from the typical hotel performance indicators, and one day she uh, called me into her office and she said, I want you to meet this nice young man that I just hired to be our assistant general manager. And any salaried employees, I would always meet them and sign off on them. And she had actually kind of went around that protocol and hired him all on her own. And I remember that day I met Ander. I'll go ahead and give his name. And when I met Ander that day, I thought to myself, oh, the GM, she just hired a replacement, because I was sure at that moment that Ander was going to be my general manager at that property someday. And that's exactly what happened there. So I have had the opportunity to um, encounter African American general managers, and to hire African American general managers, particularly male. I will say that, but I see what everybody sees in this industry. Um, there is a shortage of African American in those top general manager spots.
Do you feel like because there's a lack of applications, or what do you think is the reason?
That's the reason I would give, yes. Like that, because I'm thinking to myself, when I'm hiring general managers, again, I'm not gonna have. I want the best person for the job, and I'm always gonna say that, no matter how unpopular that statement becomes. I always want the best person for the job. And when Leon was my general manager, he was the best person for that job. When Ander was my general manager, he was the best person for that job. When Amanda was my general manager, she was the best person for that job. When Brian was my general manager, he was the best person for that job. I could go on naming name after name after name, male, female, black, white, Latinx, no matter I could go on and on doing that, and that's, I'll go back to it every time. I'm looking for the best person for the job. The only thing I want in an applicant is that they're willing to work hard and do the job and take great care of our guests, make sure that our employees are well cared for, and make sure that they're focused on what matters to our investors as well.
Mhm. Now, John, I think I know that you are not giving yourself the full credit for encompassing diversity at your hotels. And here's why I'll say that. When I was the general manager at your property at the BWI airport, I had minorities, black ladies, as support managers, right? And you would say to me, you need to teach them, you need to show them some more about their job, more than just how to schedule, more than just how to handle employee situations, because the more that you show them things, the more it frees you up. And it was actually a strong business reason for it. You said you need to get outside and do some sales. Because Miranda, it was kind of like a dual position where the assistant manager, the assistant general manager, and I kind of shared the sales role. And John's thought was, look, if you show the support managers more, that means when I call the hotel and ask for you, Leon, the answer is going to be you're not here because you're outside selling, right? So you encouraged me to teach others more about the business, which is something that more leaders need to do. So I applaud you for that. Give yourself credit for that because it's
But-
not
and
always did
and
I hire, did I do this? It's these other things that lead people into management positions that we need more of.
so one of my key performance indicators for like me and my team is building a bench. I'm all about building the bench, right? Sometimes we'll have employees leave our employ, and the general manager will say to me, "You know what? I'm not going to replace them right now. I can do that on my own." And just about every time, I'm going to say, "No, you are going to replace them." In fact, I have two GMs right now, and one of my general managers is from Morocco, and he immigrated to the United States about 5 or 6 years ago. Became a citizen, and he's very focused on improving his property. And when he recently lost a staff member, he says, he goes, I want to fill in. I want to do that job myself. I said, I'll use his name too. He's a great employee. I said, no, Yassine, you are going, you're going to hire a new housekeeping manager, and you're going to hire a new front office manager, just like the plan. I appreciate that you want to save on payroll, but and then at my hotel in State College, my manager there said, I need that my executive housekeeper's leaving. She's going to move back to Baltimore. He says, I'm just going to do that job myself instead of recruiting. I'm like, no, no, no. You're going to recruit that position. And because I'm all about building the bench. And it's selfish, because if they don't build their bench and they burn out as the GM because they're doing two people's job instead of one, I'm going to get a call about 11 o'clock on a Saturday night saying, I can't do this anymore. And then it's going to fall back on me. So it's to a degree, it's selfish. I want my hotels fully staffed all the time. And I want us always to build a bench. And Leon,
Yeah.
you might remember this as well. If there's a candidate out there that is like the perfect candidate for our organization, hire them and find a position for them.
Mhm.
And it's because we'll need them down the road sometime. So go
Yeah.
ahead and catch them while they're available instead of letting them go work for your competitor. And
Yeah.
and and that's like diversity in those types of hires is like even better, because it even strengthens your
Yeah.
business decision right then.
Yeah. Miranda, before I kick it back to you, John, you were talking about being selfish. I worked for someone for 14 years, and one of his lines, Miranda, was this. It's not John. I didn't work for John for 14 years now, but it was someone else, and one of their lines was this: I need good people because I need my golf game to improve. I can't get better at golf if I don't have good people. That's what this owner used to say. Yeah.
I mean, it's true.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, do I have time for one last question? Is that where?
Yep.
Okay. So, if I may ask you, John, what would you go back in time and ask your 20-year-old self, or tell your 20-year-old self, rather?
I Everything is gonna be okay. That's what I would tell my 20-year-old self. I spend a lot of time with the 20-year-old generation now, and there's so much anxiety, there's so much sadness, and the ability to get upset about little things, and it always works out, and it's gonna be okay. Um, that's what I would tell my 20-year-old self as well. It it might not always be in my timing. It might not always be exactly when I want it to take place, but it's gonna be just fine.
Gonna be fine.
That's good
No.
advice for everyone at every age,
Yeah.
though.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I,
How
I
about
mean,
that?
my motto is everywhere you go, go as a leader. So that's what I tell others. But if I had to talk to myself at age 20, it would be, hey, it's gonna be okay.
Right on. Now, John, I'm going to put a twist on our other signature question, right? The signature question is, have you ever had a Maryland crab cake? And I know the answer to that question because I've had crab cakes with you in Maryland.
We have.
So I'm going to twist it a little. Have you ever had a good crab cake in central Pennsylvania?
I have. I have. There is. I have not at the place you went to, however, but at there's a hotel in State College. It's one of my competitors, but it's a university owned. It's the Penn Stater Hotel, and they had a restaurant in that hotel, and I was staying there back in 2009 when we were building our Best Western at Penn State, and I went downstairs one night and I had a crab cake and it was good. They had corn in it though, Leon. They
Ah, you did. Wait a minute. You just
had
said it was good, and then you followed that up with it had corn in it.
like a
John,
corn. They had corn in it. I never heard of such a thing, and they weren't calling it a Maryland crab cake. I won't order a Maryland crab cake any other place than Maryland. And I'm a Pennsylvania guy, but I will not. But my mom was a Baltimore County girl. You know, I lived like a mile above the border. I won't order a Maryland crab cake anywhere except for Maryland, and I discourage others to do so as well. I'm a little bit of a crab cake snob. I was in Orlando last week and turned my nose up at a crab cake. So yeah, nope, that's
yeah, my thing is, if it's called Maryland crab cake and it's in Maryland, scratch it. You can't get it if it's in Maryland called a Maryland crab cake. But I was at Lancaster Brewing Company in Harrisburg last week, and I got a crab cake, and it was pretty good. So we'll take this cut of the video and send it to them. Let's give them a little shout out.
I want to know who's putting corn in crab cakes because somebody needs to be arrested.
the Penn Stater did back in the day. Whether they still do that or not, I'm not sure. I'm like,
Wow,
this is good.
wow,
They were
that's
mini.
rough.
They were mini crab cakes too.
Yeah.
They were an appetizer.
All right, right on. John, thanks for spending some time with me and Miranda. It's great catching up with you. Cool conversation. Thanks for being with us, John.
Thank you both. It was a pleasure.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Miranda, cool conversation with John. A lot of varying topics.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. I'm sorry, I'm still stuck on the corn.
Yeah, it is. See, that's gonna linger with us now. Corn in the yeah, I
Like at that point, just add raisins.
oh no. And yet, of course, don't put raisins in potato salad, right?
Or anything. They're just not necessary.
Don't do it. No, don't stop, people, stop. Now, before we sign off in like the next 30 seconds, I want you to know, and we can talk to our producer, Dr. Jay Rasenko, after the show. But I want you to know that on next Friday, Dr. J and I will be together. And he has asked my wife to prepare her signature mac and cheese. Yes. So I will be transporting it. Now, here's where you come in.
Okay.
I'm just wondering if you can get some Miranda mac and cheese. And I don't know, we could meet like I don't know, whatever that point is, we could meet somewhere and do the mac and cheese handoff, and we can like make an episode of the show with it.
I love that idea.
So we'll talk more about it. And if you would like to be on the mac and cheese show or review show or whatever, you think you have good mac and cheese, email me about it. Let's come on the show and we'll talk. We're gonna talk diversity, yeah, but we'll talk mac and cheese too. Just
I
send me
mean,
an
what
email.
better thing to bridge the gaps?
Yes, foods bring us all
Now,
together.
Leon, what
Yes.
are you going to do if I show up with mac and cheese with raisins in
If you show up with mac and cheese with raisins,
it?
okay?
Out of the blue box.
Oh no, that would be worse. What's worse, the blue box or raisins?
Equally bad.
Oh, oh, oh! I'm just I'm picturing that.
Don't.
I'm picturing it. Oh no. But anyway, we had a cool show. I'm Leon. She's Miranda. If you'd like to be a guest on Checking In, a Lodging DEI chat, you can email me. My email address is leon at the leonthomasgroup.com. And Miranda, how can everyone get in touch with you?
The easiest thing you can do is find me on LinkedIn, Miranda Kitterlin Lynch. I'm the only one. You can Google me, but you can also email my personal email address, ilmkitterlin@gmail.com.
All right, great. Thank you, Miranda. Thanks everyone for watching another episode of Checking In, a Lodging DEI chat. I'm Leon Thomas. That's Miranda Kitterlin Lynch. We will see you next time. Take care.
Bye bye.